Islamic philosophy. We will look at Islamic philosophy in two parts, and right now we will be looking at part 1 of the Islamic philosophy. Over here we will be looking at what two philosophers have said about education and teaching and what their contributions have been to the field of education through the Islamic perspective in order to help us understand what we should be doing today. The first of the Islamic philosophers is Ibn Rushd, and what he said was, new and good ideas not only in the field of philosophy, but also in medicine and Islamic legislation. Now, when we look at this, this was said many, many hundreds of years ago. If at that time, philosophy, legislation, which is law, and medicine, which I would consider to be science, are important, how much more today are these areas and other more current, modern, contemporary areas important to teach? So according to the Islamic philosophers, education was not limited to religion, literature, language, math. It was expanded, and it was meant to expand as more areas of knowledge were discovered, as more fields of study came about. It was necessary that young people be taught in those areas. It is important, according to these philosophers, that modern knowledge should be incorporated into what we teach young people today. But one has to be careful. If you keep adding only and don't remove anything, you'll soon have a mountain that will be too difficult for young people to carry, and learning and education will not happen. When you add something new to what you are trying to teach, you have to remove something that no longer is needed. That balance has to be maintained. If you don't maintain the balance, then there will be trouble, because you will be teaching too much and not much will be retained, learned, and used by the students. Again, continuing with Ibn Rushd, his great works were Kulya Fit Tib, which is 16 volumes in general medicine. Now, when you think again of so many hundreds of years ago, somebody trying to put all this information together, this is good work. We have to learn from these philosophers and see where have we lost the track. Why aren't we today putting up these volumes of contemporary education? We need to do that. We need to look at where we've left off and pick up. Somebody at some point has to say, we had it all. Where have we lost it? And if we've truly lost it, how can we bring it back? Then there was Foundations of Philosophy also he wrote. Now, if you look at the focus on philosophy, philosophy really makes you think, because it makes you answer difficult questions that do not have one correct answer. So these old philosophers of the Islamic era understood the essence of open-ended questioning, which we today somehow have lost. We look for one right answers. We look for checking things with an answer key. They did not. They had a much more open mind. They believed in the student's ability to respond, answer right the way they thought, because they believed that the students had a mind that they could use productively on their own. They did not have to reproduce everything that they told the students in the classrooms alone. The second philosopher is Al-Ghazali, one of my personal favorites. Produced more than 400 literary works in theology, which is the study of religion, philosophy, science, and Sufism, a mystic tradition within Islam. Again, when you look at the time period when all this happened, science was productive, science was taught, science was encouraged, together with religion, philosophy, and other areas of study. And that is important, not to limit education to only these particular areas that one thinks are important, but to open education to areas that go beyond what one thinks are important. His great works, this is Ghazali's great works, are Hiyahul Ulum al-Din, a broad field of Islamic science, jurisprudence, logic, and Sufism. Now, if you look at those four combinations here, logic is thinking, Islamic science is teaching science through the Islamic perspective, and Sufism, which is another offshoot of Islam, which must be taught. And these areas were integrated. They were taught together. They were not taught as isolated disciplines. Because they were not taught as isolated disciplines, individuals learned more through these kinds of integrated fields of study rather than the compartmentalized education that we offer students today.